Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Elevate with C&M Coaching. My name's Maggie. Thank you so much for joining us here. I have some super special guests here today. I have Jim and Michelle Rhoads here with me, and most of you probably actually know them from the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show, which is all over the internet. But they also have the Octane Group, the Buy Here, Pay Here Institute, and then also the Buy Here, Pay Here Nation TV, which I will let them explain to you what all of this is. But thank you guys so much for being here today. I know you're super busy.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. We had you on the show and enjoyed that an awful lot. So I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, we're happy to make time. It's always fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I have a lot of fun with you guys. It's probably a good thing we don't live near each other because it could
We
be
spend a lot of time laughing, don't we?
Yeah.
That's true.
So tell everybody about your different companies, what they kind of do, your goals, sort of things like that. So everybody who doesn't know you, which would be strange, but everybody who doesn't know you gets a chance to learn who you guys are.
Absolutely. Jim's gonna let me handle this one. So the main organization that we work through is the Octane Group, and that's the consulting arm, and that's really where a lot of the things that have branched off come from. So the Octane Group has Jim's been around the consulting world for quite a while, and so that's kind of to shows some of the consulting or the coaching side of it. And then we launched about a year and a half ago the BHPH Institute.com, and that is the first of its kind learning platform for Buy Here, Pay Here specific. And so it is online, and so people can consume whatever it is that they want to at their own pace. And then we also announced about a year ago the BHPH Nation. And the nation is something that we are starting as a nonprofit. It is because it's something that we want to give to dealers, and it's a place, a forum, a table, a plane, an ecosystem of just buy here, pay here people. And it's where they can go to see all the stuff, to learn all the things, to find all the people. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of different places that are rich in finding. Okay, so here you can go to find an answer. Here you can go to find the people. Here you can go. And so this is something that we're creating that it is going to be a beautiful ecosystem for
Yeah.
Buy Pay Here. And so we're really looking forward to that. Again, nonprofit. And then we started and did our pilot program, a Buy Here Pay Here Nation TV last October for an all day live event, and really loved doing this. And it was something we were proving a concept that we can take really rich content that's almost like going to a conference and do it online, so people can consume it a lot differently without having to buy a plane ticket, airfare, take care of their Ubers or their rental cars. And so it was hugely successful. Lots, there were hiccups because it was a pilot. And so we decided at the end of the year 2022 that 2023 we were going to be shifting into multimedia, and that's where our main focus is going to be for this year. And so and that is through Buy Here, Pay Here Nation TV, where we're doing webinars, we're doing master classes, we're doing day-long events. We also live broadcast much of what we do, our addresses at conferences. And so people have the ability to consume those wherever they are, whenever they are.
Yeah, and that's really great because one of the things that I know as a vendor myself is that there's very often specific types of material, even whether it be learning or software, even like phone systems down to the nitty gritty. There's not a lot for Buy Here, Pay Here stores. And most of the stuff that does exist is created for new cars. And it's all focusing on new car budget, right? And what the new car world needs. But Buy Here, Pay Here is different. Even Lease Here, Pay Here, the small subprime guys, it's very different than a new car store. And I've found, especially CRMs and definitely phone systems, they're not tailored to necessarily meet the needs of the Buy Here, Pay Here world. Even trainers, sales trainers, sales trainers they're going for the car. And we all know, because we're all in this space, that it's not always about the car first. It's about the financing first.
Yeah,
so I
we're in
think
the
it's,
process. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, it's great that you guys are doing this.
Well, good. We're in the process of analyzing many of those things. I mean, we see it. I kind of describe myself as, kind of one foot in old school and one foot in new school. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of technology, but obviously the challenge we have in Buy Here, Pay Here is that, we don't have that cookie cutter thing. We don't have a franchise that we follow. We've got business models and business strategies that are all over the place. I personally find that beautiful. But for those of us who serve the industry, it's like that we can't do cookie cutter kind of education.
Hmm.
We certainly, with our institute, we tried to record a lot of really foundational type of things. There are some fundamentals because, folks that have been around the business a long time, I always say, sometimes what we call old school is really just fundamental. It's just still
Yeah.
applies, and so we try to
Hmm.
make that fundamental education available to folks through that sort of platform. And then, as Michelle said, we're really have shifted into more coaching and implementation than the traditional consulting model. So
Hmm.
we try to step in and engage and actually walk dealers through whatever they're trying to implement. First you got to identify, what the challenge is and agree to work on it together, and then we just
Yeah.
go to work on it.
One of the things that we're working on, though, too, because as I mentioned multimedia, is we record almost everything. And so we have
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours and hours of recording, and we are taking, and those are either from some of the multimedia things or just from client meetings, but
Hmm.
those are sitting in a library ready to be edited and put into the Institute for Education, because it's so often that we will be talking to a dealer or whatever on a podcast, and you get feedback from this dealer over here in Wisconsin, and another one in Florida, another one in California. It's like, I deal with the same thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we get it. It's
Yeah. And one of the things I can say, Megan, as a coach, is like when we go out and do these consulting visits over the years, is like I always say I learn as much as I teach. Like, by being out there and witnessing what's going on, you identify the bottlenecks, you identify the gaps in somebody's business and some of those kind of things. So you tend to learn as you go. And certainly, now I've been in more than half of the US states, being called in professionally
Yeah.
to go into dealerships. And certainly it's changed. I mean, this is an interesting time in Buy Here, Pay Here. It's unprecedented, the changes that we're seeing, in this industry.
Mhm,
So it's a time that, this online education is especially needed.
mhm,
I really like, that you said that it's not necessarily old school, but it kind of reminds me of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is, of
Mhm.
course, a
mhm,
super old school saying. But
Right.
we see that all the time when we're writing scripts because we don't do cookie cutter training either. We try to
Mhm.
customize all of our word tracks to match the store. And
mhm,
there are some things in there that are staples. And sometimes
Yeah.
I get questioned about that. Somebody will say, why does it say this? Well, it's not that it's old school, quote unquote, it's that it works. And that's
Yeah.
why it's here.
mhm, mhm,
Customer psychology doesn't change from decade to decade. People still react the same to certain things. But there is a shift right now in applications online. Of course, the pandemic kind of brought all of that to light. But the buy here, pay here world is just catching up to this because new car stores have been doing applications for a long time. I've been doing phone training for 12 years. And 12 years ago, we were teaching people how to take applications over the phone. So are you guys seeing that shift as well, where people are trying to deliver cars and do all that, jazzy stuff?
They're trying. I mean, the industry's evolving. What we're seeing in our own polling and our own direct experience in working with dealers is that they're not fully comfortable with this idea of digital delivery, of actually doing an application,
Mm-hmm.
have a customer taking delivery in their driveway, like in Buy Here, Pay Here.
it's
That's a little more,
happening.
yeah, it's starting
Yeah.
to happen, but
Mm-hmm.
and so, there's an evolution, of course, but we're not seeing a high participation in the Buy Here, Pay Here segment in that kind of a sales process. But
Mm-hmm.
certainly we're always trying to help dealers find more efficient ways to do things. And as you know, you joined us on the podcast that we did, back in December, which
Mm-hmm.
was aimed at how do we convert more of the web leads, because we're seeing a ton of traffic in terms of web chat and conversation
Mm-hmm.
out there through digital channels, but dealers are struggling to get those folks in the building. And I always jokingly say, until we start delivering the driveway, we ultimately have to get the customer in the building at some point.
Yeah.
And I think too that unlike your regular independent or your franchise, is that once they've sold the car, that's where their relationship ends.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to be a solution to a customer, that customer typically has to know you. They have to feel like they have some kind of connection. They ha- I- that
Mm-hmm.
that's how they know to reach out. And so that face to face, that one-on-one, that mano a mano, come put yourself in that chair and we're going to figure
Yeah.
this out. That's really hard to deliver digitally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the face-to-face in person. I have a whole step called rapport building because that's really what it's about, which I agree with you 100%. I feel like if you're not creating that relationship over the phone, how do you expect them to trust you when they're already kind of broken, right? They're in a position where they don't have anywhere else to go. And we're saying, trust me, trust me, trust me, which is why I'm not a fan of just going, cutthroat for the appointment. I think you do have to date them a little bit and woo them and make them feel
Like that
comfortable.
you're dating them.
Yeah, I've yet to come up with a better phrase. As I've told you before, I'm like, that's the only thing I can think of. It's like courting. So I think that we should talk briefly about the difference between consulting and coaching. And this is something that we talked about before we went live, because it is very, very true. Of course, we are coaches. That's what we do. I mean, we teach them what to do. We usually like to do a mystery shop. You talked about identifying some of the weaknesses or the holes in the processes. That's why we do mystery shops, so I can see what's wrong with their process to begin with. And then I don't consider myself a consultant. I consider myself a coach. So what do you guys, in your opinion, what do you think the difference is between the two?
You going to tell the joke, Michelle?
You can tell the joke, Michelle.
Okay. What does a consultant and a seagull have in common? Is they both fly in, poop on you, and fly back out.
And so that's obviously an insulting way to think about it. But it's the unfortunate thing is so many would-be dealers, clients, of a consultant have seen this, and it's kind of it's a common model in the business profession, is that, a consultant will come in, point out problems, give you a list of recommendations, and then they get on the plane and go home, and you're left to figure out how to implement the thing.
And they may come back 2 or 3 months later and, well, how'd you do? And it's really difficult. It's easy for a dealer to just get into the rhythm of it's business as usual. And, it's hard for shifts and changes and to implement some of those things.
Well, it's a big thing that Michelle brought to the company. She just stepped away from the tech space and joined me and the Octane group 2 years ago almost. And she's an implementer by nature. She's just one who follows through, puts together the list of all the things that have to be done, and then we just go through the business of implementing.
So the difference with what we think coaching and consulting is, coaching is we're in the trenches. We're accountability partners. We're having 1 or 2 meetings a week with someone, and it's like, how are we doing? What can we help? And we're great working sessions where at the end of the session, they've either got really actionable things that they can do, or we've completed something.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like you, Maggie, we don't want to step into an engagement when we don't feel like we can solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Right. And so
we do say no to people that ask us to help, because it's like, yeah, we can't help you, but we can put you in the right direction.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah. No, we just know that's, we want to make sure that we can be of value. And that typically means solving whatever the problem is at hand, and then we can decide if we want to take on the next one. But we just want to make sure that we can adopt a plan that we can all work together and help implement, see through to the end, and make sure that when we step away, that the client can say, yeah, we fixed that problem. We can put that in the rearview mirror. Because one of the things I often say to clients is, look, I don't want us to all be having the same conversations 4 weeks from now.
Right.
Let's make sure we're taking steps forward.
Treading water.
Let's make sure we're having new conversations, and we're able to focus on something new. And that means addressing whatever the thing is, and let's move past it and go on to the next thing.
It also helps when you meet with them frequently, to be able to break down the bigger things into very bite-sized pieces. Like, and it becomes easier. It's that whole thing. How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
And it helps an awful lot when you're in the trenches with them to help them do that.
Not in one gulp. Yeah. No. So you guys, I know that kind of, we talked about this privately a couple of weeks ago, but you guys have done a lot of, hey, I have a brand new store. I need to get off the ground. Will you guys help me? So I assume even moving forward into this year, you guys going to be doing some of that stuff, but probably still remotely, or providing some educational material on that exact topic. How to get started. Do I want to get started? Information on that.
The short answer is yes. I mean, we still do, we call that a launch package. We start people from brand new, and we've done a lot of that over the years, and we've kind of improved the way that we, are able to launch clients. So we will always do some of that. I think the challenge for us this year is we can't take on very many of those kind of clients because we're so focused on building the multimedia company. And the idea there is that, when we get this multimedia education put together and put out there, that's going to help a client that we start in 2024. They're going to have all this material to be able to consume going forward. So I think that's the only challenge this year. We're definitely going to take some on. I would just say that any client that we meet in 2023 that wants to do a launch, we're going to ask them, are you okay with us recording everything we do? Of course, it'll be edited. We won't share all the private, inner workings of your stuff, but we certainly need to be able to make sure that whatever education we create, that we're able to capture that in a way that we can help other dealers in the future.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we created the Institute. And, before I joined Jim, I would listen to him. He would have a handful of clients that were all kind of along the same place. And I would listen to him go through, we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk. And it was the same thing over and over, because it's valuable information. It's over and over again. And I was like, honey, we should, and so that's why the Institute was created. So like the dealer track in the Institute is all of those fundamental pieces for the beginning phase of a dealership that we've recorded. There are, a few gaps here and there, but it's a place that, so when we bring on a new client that's brand spanking new, we can, instead of having to go through that, we can send them there and then get into the meat, into the, the big things. And so it's been really beautiful to watch that shift.
That's great.
When they come and they go, okay, so I watched this and and it's we do a little virtual high five, and then it's really just beautiful because we are able to help them. Their foundation, a lot of that stuff's already laid, and we don't have to do it because we've already done it somewhere where we didn't have to be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about training, because of course this is sort of one of the realms, right, of launching a new store. So what areas do you see, if you want to pick your top 2, top 3 that you really think are super important for a new store when they're coming in regards to training? What systems do you think really should be focused on initially as far as training is concerned?
Yeah, for us, that would be sales. We'd be heavy on sales and kind of front end of the store, if you will, operationally. And then we can provide education on underwriting. We do some collections training. I would say that's not our strongest, part of the business. We're probably better on the operational parts of the business. And then, so we're kind of more high level. I mean, if you think about training being, with the salespeople, we're more likely to work with the dealer and the sales manager and deliver training to them that they can teach. They can then teach. So again, it's about implementing something that can stick. So we don't want to train people and then they have turnover. And now we're, because if the dealer, and I really started doing that with collections many years ago, I just said, we're not going to do collections training anymore unless the dealer principal is present. So think about why that's important, is because if I train you, because what a lot of what we're going to ask somebody to do is not easy to do. And so people are going to take the path of least resistance. So as soon as we're gone, they're going to go back to their old habits. Unless there's somebody there from the accountability standpoint, then we really haven't solved much. And so that's, again, kind of an indication where we just want to make sure we help address the larger problem, and we're not doing Band-Aids out there. So that's kind of the approach that we bring. So again, I think your question was around training, and the way we do that, Maggie, is we kind of shifted into a virtual meeting schedule. And we can do training. We can show up for working sessions, training sessions about whatever the dealer might need at that particular time. So we're pretty adaptive in that way. We can schedule 2 virtual meetings a week. And when we show up, we dive into whatever is of interest to them. A lot of that is with a newer client, or sometimes if we're going through some sort of a retooling, so to speak, with a dealer where they're kind of reworking parts of their model or whatever, then we're spending time kind of going through the nuts and bolts of, how do we want the system? We're kind of analyzing and reworking systems sometimes, and then the training starts.
Yeah, that's great. So, if somebody wants to get in touch with you guys or learn more about you, what is the best way for them to do that? Aside from your Facebook page, which is full of amazing content. I mean, you guys are recording the morning show 3 days a week, right?
It's
Correct.
live.
Yes, that's right. I
Live
forgot. It's
3 days
recorded
a
and
week.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you can catch the recordings afterwards. It's also syndicated. So if you are an Apple podcast or whatever, whatever the major platforms are, is that we're there as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
if they're on Facebook, they're probably sick and tired of our notifications. They know how to find us. Like they're trying to unfind us. So no,
But
we're out on Facebook. We're definitely out there.
yeah, you can send us a Facebook message. You can get onto octane.group and then contact us. You can get into the Institute and contact us. You can, and I believe that on Octane Group and Institute, we actually have a phone number you can call as well.
Right.
Mhm. And now, you guys, so is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? You guys do the show?
Correct.
Correct. We went to 11 Eastern.
Yeah, we got kind of tired of being on the Pacific coast and having to start at 6.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I know, because when you guys asked me to be on, I was like, oh no, the time, because I'm Central.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
worked out because we did it over Christmas break. So it ended up working out. But I think I always watch them recorded afterwards because
Mhm.
I always forget that they're live and I'm doing other stuff. And so I always
Sure.
go back and watch them. But I love the content and I love the attention that you pay. And I always feel like all of the content is incredibly relevant. And of course, as someone that's listening to these sales calls and hearing a lot of the challenges that the stores are facing and working very closely with owners, I feel like most of the stuff is really geared towards trying to find the challenges, and then you bring on different experts to help overcome those issues, and I think it's been great.
Yeah.
So
Thank
good
you.
job, guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
And we love what you do, obviously, especially on phone training. You're the go-to person on phone training. Obviously.
Yeah,
try.
I've listened to your podcast, and it's just I remember one of the things that I walked away with just from one of the episodes, and I don't really even remember what the reason for the call was, but it was getting over this hurdle, getting over this objection from collectors to say, I don't want to ask all those questions. It takes too much time. And that you listen to recording. It's like you got a confirmation of their address. And I mean, all these confirmations in like 30, 40 seconds. And it didn't feel like someone was,
No.
it just flowed very, very nicely. And then on to what can we help you with kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's, with these new like FTC safeguard rules that are coming up that are just a thorn in everyone's side, including mine, verification of accounts is going to be even more important, and making sure that you're protecting those accounts, because technically, if their name isn't on the account, you really can't talk to them. And so you need to be careful with that kind of stuff. So I'm always like, verify, verify, verify. It's not that hard, but everybody makes it seem like, oh, it's the end of the world.
Yeah. And then if you've got a good system, those are recorded. So
Yes.
that you always have the recording. And in case someone comes back and says you didn't, it's like, yes, we did.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm always begging people, even if you're not going to hire a trainer, even if you don't have any desire to do phone training, please just record your phone calls, because there is nothing more important than being able to go back, especially in collections, and listen to what was actually said, because people lie about agreements all the time,
We're gonna definitely introduce you to our clients for that mystery shop offer. I know you've offered to mystery
they're free
shopping, and so we're definitely gonna make sure that our clients
very
know
eye-opening, you guys. I just did one a couple of days ago, which you guys will appreciate this. They have live chat on their website. So my coaches, anytime they see live chat, they're like, dogs on a stake. They want to check out that live chat and see how quickly they respond. And she left her clock open while she recorded the chat, and it went for 15 solid minutes where no one responded. And then it kicked them out of the chat.
Oh boy.
And so, when we did that webinar and we were talking about how do we convert these leads into customers, there's one for you right there. Don't have chat if you're not going to monitor it.
Yeah, for sure.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Anything else that you guys want to add, or anything else that you think listeners should know about you guys?
Not necessarily about us, and I'm going to take this first. If you
Yeah.
have something you wanted to add, is that one of the things that we see all of the time with dealers out there, especially ones that are new, and we do a lot of new dealers, we do a lot of established dealers that want to do a retooling, like Jim said, but especially those new ones, or ones that really have never plugged themselves into a 20 group or to a conference or things like that. They don't know what they don't know what they don't know, and they
Mhm.
make some really, really incredibly expensive mistakes if someone had just told them from
Yeah.
from the gate. And so, we, Jim and I, have a coach. We have someone that we, can pass things by, and it's like, what do you think?
Mhm.
What do you, da, 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 da. And I think that that anyone who owns a business, and I don't care what kind of business it is, it's a good idea to have some kind of coach or mentor, someone that has been in the trenches, someone that understands all the pieces, so that you can chat with them. And so, it's you can engage us, you can not engage us, but find someone
Mhm.
that can help give you some direction, because, like,
You
again,
sound just like me. I say the same thing all the time. If it's not me, I don't care, but do
find
something. Please
something.
listen
Yeah.
to your phone calls.
I
It's
always use
very
the example of
expensive.
Tiger Woods. Somebody told me years ago when Tiger Woods was at the peak of his game. It's like, even all that money and that success, he still was using a coach actually
Uh-huh.
daily. And so it's an example of why, even at the top of your game, you still can benefit from that. And then the only other thing I would share, Maggie, about us is part of what inspires us, motivates us to get up and do what we do with the morning show, and, all the education that we're bringing, is that
Mhm.
I have a real passion for the consumer. I was a dealer myself for about 7 years, and I owned other
When
businesses
he
where we
says
dealt with,
consumer, not the dealer consumer, but
Yeah, the
the
customer.
dealer's
the
consumer, the
customer
customer
Mhm.
borrower.
consumer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that I have a lot of passion for. That, like, we see that they have some of them lack some education around certain things, certainly finance education. And so we're
Mhm.
just trying to help that consumer ultimately have a better experience through our dealers. We know that, it's a long relationship that dealers and consumers have in the buy your payer space. So we're really motivated to try to make sure that all of that works as well as possible. And that's part of why we introduced our White Hat Way. We're just trying to make sure that, dealers understand how to maybe make that relationship more comfortable for both. And
Mhm.
so that's a big driver for us. And I just want to share that's kind of what drives me to do what I do.
Hmm.
It's funny that you use Tiger Woods, because I always used to use Michael Jordan,
Mm,
being,
yeah.
like a teen in the 90s. For me,
Yeah.
Michael
Mhm.
Jordan was my jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I always refer to coaching as kind of like having a personal trainer, and it's a lot like losing weight or exercising. If you stop for a period of time, you're gonna, regress your progress. And that's why it's
Mhm.
important, even if you're just doing a little bit, to still make sure that you have someone by your side to help guide you and direct you. And I think you guys are doing such a great job. I really appreciate you being here. I know how crazy busy you guys are. So
You're
thank you
welcome.
for taking your time out of your day today to talk with me and share all of this information. And just thanks so much for everything you guys do. It's really great to give back. I try to provide free advice whenever I can, and you guys are doing a great job of it too. So thank you so much for being here today.
Of course, enjoyed it.
Yeah. And thank you for all that you have been doing as well. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you, and
Agree.
your
Yeah, you
your
guys are my
passion.
favorite
Yeah.
now.
Good.
So
All right.
thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Too.
So yeah.
Thank you so much to Jim and Michelle Rhoads for being on the podcast today. They did such a great job. They really have made quite a great positive impact on our industry, and I do recommend that you guys check them out, and definitely check out the Buy Here Pay Here Nation TV. There are some amazing interviews with some wonderful consultants, and they really try to do as much as they can to get information out there and knowledge out there, especially since sometimes when a new store is starting up, they don't have a lot of cash. And so free training is going to be super helpful for everyone. So I'm so excited that they were here today. And I do look forward to, working with them down the road. I also want to just briefly mention that there is an event coming up, and it is for the Buy Here, Pay Here United. And if you're not familiar with it, go check it out at bhphunited.com. They are having a summit. It is going to be April 30th through May 2nd at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. And I am very honored that it is now public that I have been invited to speak, which I am so excited about. I'm going to be speaking on the very last day, which of course is going to be, like I mentioned, the 2nd of May. And my session is going to be at the right before the kind of the dealer open forum. So it's going to be from 3 to 4 p.m. Again, it's at the Bellagio, and I'm going to be talking about the breakdown of sales and collections calls, and it's going to be excellent. So I'm really excited to be there. If you haven't registered yet, register now. Go to the website bhphunited.com. Check it out. Lots of great speakers, tons of great information, and of course I'll be there. So you know it's going to be great. Thank you guys again for joining us today on this episode of Elevate with C&M Coaching, and we'll be back next week. I have an exciting podcast plan, so stay tuned for that, and have a great weekend.